Hello everyone. Welcome to the course orientation for the Work Immersion subject for ICT Animation. So first of all, what is this Work Immersion for ICT Animation? So the main purpose of this subject is to go in an industry that directly relates to the student's post-secondary goal. So your post-secondary goal, according to DepEd, may differ. So it can be under employment, higher education, entrepreneurship, and middle skills development. So for academic strands, they tend to focus on employment and higher education. However, for TVL students, they also have to look into entrepreneurship and middle skills development. And with that one, with this type of work immersion, we hope that this model would also battle or would tackle those two. So our main objective is for the students to be exposed and become familiar with work-related environment that is related to their field of specialization. So for you guys, it's ICT animation. So that can either be in the field of animation or computer programming. Other specific objectives would be the following: to gain relevant and practical industrial skills, something that you don't necessarily see here in the classroom, to also appreciate the importance of the theories, principles, and skills that were taught in school. So the ones that we're teaching you ever since you were in grade 11, hopefully that would aid you in this work immersion. Moreover, to enhance our technical knowledge and skills, another thing that we'd like to focus on is to enrich your skills in terms of communications and human relations. So regardless of whichever exit assessment you do, you will have to communicate with other people. And that's something that's very important. We're not sure if it's something that you learn in your subjects. It is part of it. However, it's not as well in depth as this. Another thing is to develop good work habits, attitudes, appreciation, and the respect for whichever work will be assigned to you. So for our course outline, of course, we're going to divide this into midterms and finals. So the work immersion is divided into 3 parts. So you have your pre-immersion, your immersion proper, and then your post-immersion. So for this one, we're going to focus on pre-immersion and immersion proper. So for the pre-immersion, we have here your job credentials. So we're going to look into what's the difference between the resume and the curriculum vitae, and also the importance of creating a portfolio, especially for the ICT strand. We also have here the job forms, which is not necessarily discussed in normal school situations. However, it is essential whenever you get a job. So this is more important if you pursue employment after graduation. Regardless, you will still be needing this one, especially the basic forms like, let's say, a police clearance form and the SSS form. Next one is the interview. So for the interview, we're going to look into power dressing, commonly asked questions, and do's and don'ts in an interview. So for this one, due to the time restraint that we have, we won't necessarily be looking into this. However, it's going to be more of a supplementary subject. And the use of online collaborative tools, which will be very important later on as you see during your immersion proper. So for the immersion proper, we tried to look into project management. So aside from you creating your projects, of course you need to know how to manage them. So we have here the different topics that we're going to look into. So you have introduction to project management, we have their scope, the 5 process groups. So this is more into one subject, which will be part of your week 2. For your week 3, we're going to have initiating a project. So we're going to look at how or what a stakeholder is and how you're going to analyze your stakeholders based on the need of your project, as well as creating a project charter. We also have their planning a project, so you'll be creating a work breakdown schedule, a Gantt chart, which is something that you may already be familiar with, and risk analysis. The next one is you're going to be building a team, running a team, and then executing a project. So for building and running a team, this focuses more on how you're going to interact with your teammates. So normally we have our own teams when we're doing our other subjects. However, this one is more on a professional scale. So this is more on the idea of managing a project. However, regardless of what your role is later on when you're going to create a project, you still need to be able to know how to deal with these things. We also have their executing a project, which is the actual creation of the project. We also have their monitoring a project and then closing a project. So for this one, for the midterms, we'll be ending around running a team. So by finals, we're going to have executing a project, monitoring a project, and then closing a project. And then for your finals, we're going to have, together with actually creating your project, we have the post-immersion. So under the post-immersion, this is what you're going to do after the actual immersion is done. So you have your personal portfolio, which was done during your pre-immersion and immersion stage, as well as a few other credentials like, let's say, a reflection paper or journal reports. So we have also here the project credentials. So for the project credentials, these are the outputs that you'll be doing as a group. So now let's look into the course requirements. So let's move on first with the personal portfolio. So the personal portfolio is a requirement that is really required by DepEd for the work immersion subject. So it mostly includes the pre-immersion subjects or the pre-immersion requirements. So you have there your portfolio, resume, CV, and the like. We also have very few in terms of the immersion and post-immersion. So for the immersion, more on the individual work done. And then for the post-immersion, you have there the daily journal report, as well as your reflection paper. So here are some of the outputs that you will be doing for your personal portfolio. It's not quite a lot. The one that's going to be a lot more is the course requirements for the actual incubation. So this is more of the project itself. But before that, I'll be explaining what incubation is and why we actually did this in the first place. So incubation, this is a type of a work immersion wherein you're going to create projects based on client specifications. So you will have to do something for a client that we will be assigning you. So the teams will be done based on the complexity of the project, and also the projects are based off the needs of the UCSHS department. So for this one, your clients will most likely also be members of the UCSHS department, most likely from the SWF as well as our contact coordinators. So why do we have incubation? Why are we not allowing you to go outside, aside from, of course, the ECQ? So, based on my observation, personal observation, as well as accounts of our students and accounts of, let's say, even in, let's say, college, the ICT industries in Baguio are usually the following. So you have their contact center services, which is great for our ICT CCS students. For also ICT industries, when they're going to undergo OJT or immersion, they tend to only accept college students. So the idea of accepting a senior high school student in terms of Texas Instruments tend to be very low. And also, another ICT industry here in Baguio is more of the small, generalized IT departments. So with these ICT industries, the students tend to do the following. So the ideal thing that we want to happen is that you do the skills or the things that you were taught in school. This is the most ideal scenario, but at the same time, it's quite rare due to the reasons that were given. So there's not really a lot of animation industries or even, let's say, programming industries here in the city of Baguio. So what tends to happen is that if we do deployment, it would most likely turn into creating or doing skills that is not really related to the ones that were taught in school. Like for example, let's say repairing computers, networking, which is also quite rare, some assistant work like encoding. So with that one, it's not really a reflection of what you do for your animation or programming. So again, it has to be related to the knowledge and skills taught in our school. The projects that you will be using can also be used within the UCSHS. So another problem that we tend to look into this is more for, let's say, some of the research, is that the projects that you do isn't necessarily applied. So after you do your research or after you do something, it's virtually worthless. So for this one, after you create something for your work immersion, you will have some sort of accomplishment that what you did actually matters. Another thing is that our incubation will be dependent whether you like animation or programming. So when we're going to do our deployment, tendency is that you will not be able to choose that one. You won't be able to choose that you want to do animation, but you were assigned programming or something within those lines. So for this one, since we are controlling, let's say, the groupings, you tend to have more liberty to choose projects based on your preference and specialization. So with that one, if you're more leaning into animation, you're better at animation, or you're more interested in that one, then you can choose an animation related project, or you will be assigned an animation related project. If you're more into programming, then you would be able to also do a programming project. So it would reduce those kinds of tasks that you don't really want to do and at the same time are unnecessary. And also, this incubation will focus also, or will introduce, the idea of project management. So this is why we would like to look into the 4 exit assessments. So for project management, it basically looks into all of those ones. So if you're employed, of course, you need to be able to know how to manage a project or manage a team. For, let's say, if you're going to create your own business, of course, you'll have people under you, or your staff, and you need to know how to manage them, how to deal with them, create simple projects, and so on. We also have here, that's also for freelancing, so how you're going to talk to your client, how you're going to work with other people if the client wants you to do. For higher education and middle skills development, usually these are essential tasks or essential subjects that you will have to look into. Especially for higher education, you will be you will be taking up a subject on project management if you do choose to have, or you take IT or computer science subjects. Our expected outputs are the following. So first of all is the direct application of knowledge and skills in terms of animation and programming. So no more, let's say, repairing PCs, doing simple coding, magtitimpla ng kape. So you don't have to do that anymore. Moreover, you will also have knowledge on project management, which is, as I've stated previously, is that it will help you in all 4 exit assessments. And then, the projects that you have created can be part of your professional portfolio. So regardless of what you're going to do, even if, let's say, you want to get employed or if you want to pursue higher education, you already have a way for you to do freelancing should you want to or should you aspire to. So here are the possible projects that you could do if ever you will be doing the incubation. So for those who want to take up animation, you will be doing mostly animations that would promote the UC Senior High School in general. So that would be the strands, the facilities, the services, and also rules and regulations inside our department. For programming, the main goal right here is for you to automate some of our UC SHS processes. Like for example, taking an admission slip, tracking those ones, or even very simple things that are done manually but can be done better if you automate them. So it's more on creating processes, offline desktop processes, hopefully. So for your project management, just to give you a short introduction, so this will help you manage, or of course create your project, and then have the right track at it. So when you tend to create a project beforehand, is that it's more up to chance, or let's say it's not as organized. When you go to the industry or when you do IT related jobs, you would tend to see that simply, let's say, doing something even though no one is working with you, or let's say doing whatever you want, isn't necessarily very ideal, since you need to take into consideration your client and all of those things. So it's based on the 5 process groups. For project management, you tend tend to have like different approaches, so we focused on the 5 process groups, which is much easier. So for this one, the project management originally was done once a week. So while you're doing your project, you would have a lecture on how to manage it. However, due to our ECQ, what we aim to do is that most of the topics for project management will be discussed on midterms, and then on finals you will be focusing more on the actual immersion. So here are the different outputs. Don't worry, this is more of per group, and with this one we're going to give you due to, let's say, the shift of how we're going to implement our learning, this might be reduced even further. Now let's move on to the modular instruction. So the modular instruction, the basis of this one is a DepEd order. So this didn't really come out of nowhere. The main purpose of this one, which is I think really beneficial for the students, is that you won't have to extend your 3rd trimester anymore. So hopefully if this ECQ lifts up, then you can go have an actual vacation on the month of July and not necessarily like go to school and then immediately after you graduate you would have to go to higher education should you want to take higher education. Also, the nature of this modular instruction, due to, let's say, a lot of factors such as digital divide and all of those things, the topics are limited to the most essential topics. So we're not going to go so much into the details. That's why I stated your group projects or the activities that you'll be doing will be limited very significantly. So the modular instruction would take place in such a way that it will be home-based and blended learning. So for every week, you will be given one module to do. So on that module, you'll be given the topics as well as the activities that you have to do. For the modular instruction, it's going to be done individually for most of your modules, regardless in this subject and in other subjects would be individual. However, for your inquiries as well as your immersion, you would tend to see that we will also be looking into group creating groups or creating outputs for groups. So for the first 9 weeks, up until May 31st, we're going to have our home-based learning. So on our home-based learning, we're going to focus on topics on project management and some preparatory steps for the actual immersion process. So it's more on initiating and planning your project. And then for the blended learning, the immersion proper may begin. So for the modules, here we have the topics that you will be undergoing. So for the first week, pre-immersion requirements, which was done. And then together with that one, we're going to have week 2, introduction to project management. So that includes the actual introduction. We also have scope and then the 5 process groups. For your finals, we're going to start with week 6 up until week 9. So for this one, week 9 will be for the last week of May, and then upon resumption of classes, we're going to have a blended learning style. This will still have some sort of module. However, we have at the very least the opportunity to have contact with your teachers. So it's still all up in the air, so it can be subject to change. So the release of modules, this was given to you by your class advisor. So if you're hearing this one, it's been released by April 20th. And then for the activities of your modular instruction, so every single module would have around 1 to 2 activities, and then probably these 2 activities would have a maximal total of 30 points. So most of the activities will be individual. At the very least, for the entire midterms, all of your activities will be individual. The only exception that I can think of is immersion, inquiries. Since you already have your teams from your practical research, then you won't necessarily have to do regrouping again. So we've been allowed to do group works for inquiries. So your answers will be placed in a yellow pad paper or digitally, so you can just type in on your computer and then write your answers. And then please send it via photo and or PDF. So if it's via yellow pad paper, take a photo and then send it. And then for PDF, you can simply send the file itself. So as much as possible, please send it only by these ones. Don't send it by text. Don't send it by a Word file, because it's more of a security. You would be assured that your answers weren't necessarily altered. And with this one, for the activities of our modular instruction, it is without saying, flexibility, utmost consideration, and best effort shall be extended by the teacher. So one of the things that we would like to do is, for the submission of the activities, which we have right here, you don't have to necessarily submit, let's say, activities 1 and 2 by the end of the week. So this is more of the students who have better internet connection. They can submit earlier from the scheduled date. So there are, of course, advantages to those ones for the teachers, so that they won't necessarily be overwhelmed by the amount of checking upon resumption of classes. And then for those who submit earlier, then we would have the chance to give feedback as early as possible. Also, as much as possible, let's try to check our class group account. So that would either, we will be looking into ways on how I'm going to reach you, on how you're going to on posting of modules for further announcements. So other things that we'll be doing is that we'll be extending as much contact as possible. So we'll be extending it to all possible accounts. So you have your Facebook, your Gmail, your Google Classroom, even on YouTube. So I'll be posting this lecture on YouTube. For the midterm examination for Work Immersion, there won't be any midterm examination. So the scores will be based off the written works and your performance tasks. So you have to do well on these ones so that you would have a higher grade. Last one is other expectations. So for the grading system of this one, it utilizes the 20-60-20 kind of way. So your quarterly examination is 20%, your performance task is 20%, and then your written work is 20%. So we have 2 grading periods, your midterms and your finals. However, as stated, your midterm examination will not occur. Instead, we'll be getting your scores based on your written work and performance tasks. Another important thing that you'll be doing down the line around finals is that you'll have to interact with clients. So you have to get the information that you need before you actually create your animation or your system. So these are the things that you'll have to look into. So building rapport, how to communicate properly, so not communicating in Messenger, but instead in Gmail, how you're going to compose your email properly, all of those things. And then aside from that one, we have other things such as setting up meetings, follow-ups, and soft skills. So for your teamwork, you will be creating a project. So of course, you'll need a team for that one. The number of members would depend on the complexity of the project given. So it depends on whether or not there's a lot of classes to do or a lot of features to do. Most likely we will be taking a huge system and then we'll be distributing it individually for programming. For animation, we haven't really looked into it. So for the members of the team, we will be creating the teams in terms of, first of all, the preference in terms of animation or programming. So as much as possible, think as early as now if you want to do an animation project or a programming project, because as much as possible, we would want you to do the task that you really want to do. If you prefer both, then just choose one. If you prefer neither, then just choose one. And also, originally, we were going to divide you according to your set skill. However, due to the circumstances of the ECQ, it would either be it would be divided to you individually. So it's going to be your subject teacher who's going to divide it specifically, or maybe it would be per group. It would be choose your own rather. So, of course, those who fail to participate is going to be taken out of the team at any time, and then you'll be given a new project individually. So, most likely that will be a type of a research, which is still related to either animation or programming. So the last one is for your materials and consultation. So for your modules, I'll be releasing them through Google Classroom and Facebook Messenger. So for the Facebook Messenger, I'll be releasing them as PDF files as well as images for those who are able, so that you can access it a little bit easier. So even for those who are just having slower internet connection, can still view it through the use of the image. For our lectures, I'll be posting it on my on an alternate Facebook account I've created. I'll also be posting it here on this YouTube channel. So this one included will also be posted on the Facebook account and the YouTube channel. Pardon the live streams. And then for consultation hours, I will be available for consultation. So I'll be online Monday through Thursday, so 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. To cater to the nocturnal nature of the ICT, I will also be available 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're not allowed to give your queries outside of these hours. It just simply means that if you consult me within these times, there is a higher chance that I would be able to reply to you in real time. So you can still give me, you can still ask questions, have queries. So the main thing that you can do that is through my Gmail account. You can also do it through Facebook Messenger, through the Facebook account that was given to you. So with that one, if you have any questions, you may use those ones, and I hope you would be able to get through this. Let's all get through this. Hopefully you're going to be able to enjoy this class even with all of our circumstances.